Hi folks, I suspect that Rishi Sunak has been eavesdropping on my broadcast, listening to our posts. I broadcast on Sunday about the furlough scheme, commented on the self-employed grants, suggested, brackets said, that it's likely to change to come in line with what the first furlough scheme is. As of today, two good announcements for a lot of self-employed, not everybody by any stretch of the imagination. We've had a change in the self-employed grants. We've had a change in the universal credit, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. A couple of other bits to share with you. So this is what we're going to, I just thought I'd do a quick broadcast just to keep everybody in the loop, so we know what's going on amongst all the noise and the mayhem and the distress and the anxiety. Hi folks, my name is Mahmood. I'm an accountant by occupation and experience, former teacher, former educator. My mission in life is to improve business owners' mindset, the money mindset, make profits, deal with anxiety, make money, have a half decent life and move on. So that's part of my mission tonight, is to make sure we're all informed about what financial support is out there in these current times of COVID. Who would have thought back in March 2020, when COVID became a thing in terms of government support, businesses being affected, that several months later we'd still be talking about it. All the schemes that came into the fore at the beginning, a lot of them are still out here. They've metamorphosized, they've changed shape, they've changed direction. So I'm just going to focus on two or three things tonight. One is the self-employed grant, what changed today compared to what was on Sunday. We'll look at the furlough scheme, or mention that briefly, not a great deal about that. We talked about it extensively on Sunday. Quite happy to point out the links to that. We'll talk about universal credit, and we're also going to talk about something called the bounce back loan. And again, they've changed the criteria and the conditions on that, and I'll give you my own personal take about what you should do in that situation. If you're coming up on replay, do the usual, put a hashtag replay in the comments box. I'll do my level best to answer the questions directly tonight. If I don't get to deal with them tonight, then I will certainly deal with them as time goes on, pick them up accordingly. It lets me know that you're actually out there, and it lets me know that I'm not just talking to one man and his dog. So without further ado, let's crack on with this, well, relatively short broadcast, hopefully. As in all these things here, when we talk about financial support, when we're talking about what's out there, it's really important, I would suggest, as a business owner. There's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of, come this Thursday when we in another lockdown situation, it's going to affect businesses in a number of different shapes and forms here. Anything that you need to do in making decisions, do not make decisions when you're feeling anxious. Do not make decisions when your brain is fuddled with lots of confusion. You need to be relatively calm. You need to effectively deal with your financial future, your business future, with some degree of, I won't call it decorum necessarily, but you need to leave the anxiety at the door where you can. It is a very uncertain landscape. I'm sure by the time I finish this broadcast tonight, tomorrow morning, something else would have changed, something else would have moved. So this is all based on what I've digested today, what I've read today. Again, the devil in the detail will be coming out later on. So please remember, there's a lot of things that I'm going to be talking today is based on the information that I can glean from the Treasury site, HMRC, the Gov site. There's a lot of detail that has not yet been provided. I will fill in and give you my personal opinion, and I will go, health warning, this is my personal opinion. I'm not saying I've been always right, but pretty close to it so far. Devil's in the detail. Obviously, money is going to be important to help navigate what's going on here. So again, my personal view is gather the data, put a plan together, figure out what's going on with your cash story, and then you can decide what decisions you've got to make and how we're actually going to all collectively navigate the path that's ahead of it. Carol, my pleasure. More than happy to help where I can. All of us, this is a collective experience, not just in the UK. Obviously, I'm talking to a UK audience predominantly for these rules, but all around the world, people are experiencing the impact of COVID socially, economically, in terms of different sectors are experiencing this turbulence in different ways. So artistics, hospitality, all the rest of it are feeling the extreme. If you're an online retailer, perhaps you're not feeling it as badly. There's opportunities out there. So within all of this here, we're thinking about what's going to be best for our own business, personal situation. So we need to know what's going on. So let me crack on with these slides. So by the power of magic, here's something I prepared earlier. Let me add this to the stream. So there's me gone to the little bit of a corner. So let's talk about the self-employed. Now, can I emphasize here, it's called a self-employed grant extension. There have been 2 self-employed grants so far. This is what's called an extension. This is, again, as of announced today. What you'll find is a lot of the conditions to be eligible for the self-employed grant are still applicable. They haven't published the detail. So let's just say what we do know. Now, first of all, you have got to meet the criteria to have been previously eligible for the 2 previous self-employed grants. What does that mean? Well, let me round up. I would certainly recommend, if you're not taking notes, if you want to get some more detail, please check out our website, proactiveresolutions.com. Go to the news section, and we publish quite a bit on there in terms of blogs. If you check out the my social media links like Instagram or Facebook, hit the profile section. There's a link to all the live videos that I've done previously on this. So there's a lot of detail that's out there already, but here's what it means. Now, to be previously eligible, you have got to be self-employed. And what that means is you've got to have completed a self-employed section in your personal tax return. You've also got to have been registered for self-employment in 1819. So if you started self-employment on the 6th of April 2019 onwards, at this moment in time, you won't be eligible. At the end of the session, the end of the broadcast, I'll give you my personal view of what I think may happen. I emphasize that word may, but in terms of factual, if you haven't been eligible for the 1819 grant because you haven't been registered self-employed, or if you have been self-employed, your profits from self-employment are over 50K, or they're not at least 50% of your total income. So you might have a part-time salary, you might have property income. Your self-employed profits are going to be at least 50% of the overall mix, and it's got to be below 50,000. So if you don't meet those criteria, unfortunately, you will not be eligible for this grant extension. Now, you may not have claimed for the 2 previous grants. That's fine. You've just got to meet the eligibility criteria. So some people I know haven't previously claimed, either because they didn't think they were eligible, they missed it, or they decided not to go down that route. So you don't have to have claimed previously, you've just got to be eligible for it. And the third thing, as I said, you've got to be self-employed. Again, sole traders, freelancers, that's the sort of description that you might alternatively use. If you're a limited company and a director of a limited company, it's quite logical to call yourself self-employed, but that's not relevant for the self-employed grant. You will not be able to claim. Conditions, as we said. Now, just to continue for this new grant, I said you've got to have submitted an 1819 return. So if you haven't filed it, you won't get the grant. You've got to be intending to trade. You have traded in 1920, so you could have stopped because of restrictions. Client base is gone, but you've got to have some element of trading in 1920. And you've got to, based on the interpretation, got to be intending to trade in 2021. So if you've said, that's enough for me, you know, I can't be bothered with this, it's too much stress, my business has gone down the tube, it's not really for me, I want to go back into the world of work where there's more stability, certainty of income, I don't like the stresses and strains of self-employment, and you cease trading in 1920, you will not be eligible for the grant. So you've got to be trading or have paused because of coronavirus. Now, the conditions have also changed, by the way, in the sense that when we came to the second grant, they talked in terms of, has your business been adversely affected by coronavirus? And that could have been interpreted quite widely. It could have meant you had to relook at childcare arrangements. It could have meant that your sales line has suffered. It could have meant that you didn't get the contracts that were anticipated. It could have meant your trade was down on the previous year. It could have meant you've had to invest in PPE as a result of coronavirus. That's adversely affected. I.e., if coronavirus wasn't there, what position would your business be in? If it was more positive, then you're eligible. Now here, they talk in terms of reduced demand. Okay, that's the language that seems to be adopted. The definition of that, what that actually means, again, the devil will be in the detail here, but what I would certainly suggest everybody does is make sure you've got something, even if it's not War and Peace, that you've got documented evidence about how your business has been affected. Certainly for the two previous grants and for this one here, that reduced demand seems to be the criteria. They haven't defined it yet. I would suggest that it's going to be quite narrowly defined. So again, evidence. Now, your self-employed grant, by the way, will be assessed in the year 1920 where we are now. So when we come to next year's tax return, and we always are behind on this one, remember that it's going to be part of your income, which may affect what's something called your payments on account. So again, if you're looking to reduce them, be very careful. They are subject to NIC, but they're not subject to VAT. If you incorrectly claim, if you claim fraudulently, HMRC have stepped up their compliance activity to police the system. Again, I'm not suggesting anyone listening to this broadcast is within that bracket, but again, just make sure you've got something to support your claim. If you realise suddenly actually you shouldn't have claimed or something's gone wrong or whatever, then you've got the time limit to actually make that amends. And please, can I ask you to watch out for scammers? There's a lot of people, unfortunately, who are, shall we say, lacking of fibre and lacking of morals, who are quite willing to take advantage of people who have, troublesome times, who are, down on their luck. The business might be suffering, and they will come in, and I've seen this for a number of clients, a number of people that we don't support as clients, but we help, that's saying, click this link, we can help you get X, here's some money, a text purporting to be from HMRC. It's rubbish. HMRC will not text you. HMRC will not email you. If in doubt, contact HMRC directly on the helplines. Contact your advisor, your accountant, or contact us. But most cases, pretty much, okay, you need to have a careful eye on scammers. They will take advantage of you being on the back foot. They will take advantage of, there's all this money going on, the confusion. So please watch out for people trying to scam you. They're not very nice people, but they will have no moral fibre in doing that. Now let's continue a feast. Again, if you've got any questions as it comes up, by the way, please, by all means, share them on here. Now, what I'm going to also do, stick with the slides, let's look at some numbers and figures. So this comes up on the screen. It will do it eventually. Now, effectively, there have been 4, if you want, grants, I would suggest. The first one was March 20 to July 20. Obviously, the deadline for that has passed. The maximum grant that you were able to claim was $7.5 grand. That was basically saying, whatever your average monthly profits are, take 80% of those for 3 months, and the maximum grant you'll get is $7.5 grand, paid as a single figure. It's taxable, subject to NIC, but it's money in the bank, which is good. It's not a loan, it's a grant. The second grant, which was this adverse affected, ran between the 14th of October to October 20. The deadline for that has passed. So if you haven't claimed already, by the way, and you had until the 19th of October, unfortunately you miss out. There is no facility at the moment, by the way, that if you've missed the claim, for you to be able to claim. So if you've missed it, it's unfortunate. Historically, the maximum grant for that was 6570. Now, here's the next 2 things. You've got the grant for self-employed is being done in 2 stages. All the numbers being quoted at the moment are up to and including January 21. The government have not announced what they're going to be doing for the second instalment of the grant, or second 3-month period, which runs between February 21 and April 21. So all the figures we're talking about is only for the 3 months from November 20 to the end of January 21. The deadline for the claim hasn't yet been confirmed. The portal, by the way, for when the claim can be submitted is estimated to be the end of November 20, beginning of December 20. Now, there's nothing for you to do in terms of collating information, by the way. HMRC will have all that information on file. Hence the reason for saying, you've got to have filed your 18-19 tax return, because all the data they need, they have already there. So you don't have to worry about scrambling around looking for it. It's there already in the clutches of HMRC. Only you can claim for the self-employed grant, by the way. Your agents, your accountants can't claim it on your behalf. If they do so, it's fraudulent, and that could jeopardise the validity of your claim. The maximum grant payable is $5,160, and that covers 3 months worth of activity. And the news that I'm going to announce today is they've increased the amount they're paying out for the month of November. December and January still stay at the original 40% of average profits. We don't know anything yet about February to April 21. It has not yet been announced. There's no details coming through. I suspect, this is an opinion, HMRC will see what happens in the landscape for coronavirus coming out of winter, coming to the new year. They'll see the scale of the grants being paid out. They will get representation from a variety of bodies, public pressure and all that sort of stuff. Then they will announce what the grant will be. They'll also announce what the deadline is. Bear in mind, up for a few weeks ago, there was no further grant beyond November 20. So that's changed. I did predict, by the way, not that I had any inside information when I did my broadcast last, that the self-employed grant is likely to be changed to 80% to bring it in line with furlough. And that's largely, not perfectly, what's happened now. So self-employed grant has moved for this November to be in line with what people get as a furlough grant. Let me just share a couple of more numbers with you. Now, I'll just put together something that shows you what you're likely to get as a payout. Now, I've taken two illustrations here. So you take the average monthly profits, and again, remember, HMRC have got these numbers, and these are average taxable profits. For November, you will get 80% of those average profits. For December and January, based on what we have so far, you will get 40% of those average profits. So collectively, you will get one single payment of £3,200 that covers those 3 months. It's likely to be, as I said, the end of November 20 is when the claim portal will be open. HMRC will have to modify their existing systems. Luckily, a lot of the infrastructure is there already, but it will go live, I would say, at the end of November 20, brackets first week of December 20. If you haven't claimed before and you're going to claim for this time, then make sure you've got a government gateway account sorted out, because you have to make the claim through your government gateway, your own personal government gateway. If you haven't set one up, drop me a line, drop me a comment box, or go onto hmrc.gov, open up a personal tax account, because you'll need one. Now, here's the maximum. Now, because the way the numbers are done, this is my view about how the grant will be calculated. So the 3225 is the maximum level to get the maximum grant. The maximum grant collectively is 5,160. What that means is your average monthly profits have got to be in the order of 3,225. 80% of that grant in November gives you $2.5 grand, just approximately. In December and January, it comes to 1,290, and that will give you the maximum grant. Now, if you've claimed previously, you'll know what the average monthly profits are. So at least you can figure out, roughly speaking, what you're likely to get and put that into your personal cash flow. Now, there's a couple more things I want to mention here. Other things that are changed since today. Everybody's got a personal opinion about whether they should be claiming benefits. My personal view has always been on these things, that everybody in the UK, from the moment you come into this world to the moment you leave this world, some way or another, tax will be taken off you. Whether it's in VAT, whether it's on sweets, chocolates, duty, driving vehicles, whatever we do in our lives, generally speaking, from the moment we come in, from the moment we leave this earth, tax will be taken off us in some description. It goes into a big bucket, and out of that, it goes for doing lots of things that are government policy and otherwise. Benefits are there to support people. So if you have any personal pride, and I can understand that, I would suggest that you put that to one side, Benefits are there. You'll get them if you're entitled. So check out something called Universal Credit. Now, Universal Credit there is replacing our existing things like working tax credit. Self-employed people can claim for it. Individuals on low income who might be employed can also claim for it. Now, what's changed is under the old Universal Credit rules, and this is before COVID, you had to have what was called a minimum earnings limit. It's what's called a minimum income floor. And it goes something along these lines. Depending on how many hours that you're mandated for, when you speak to the Universal Credit people, based on your age group, you multiply that by the minimum wage. So typically, somebody working 30 hours a week, and that age group where their minimum wage is £8.72, that's something in the order, just quickly work it out, about 260 odd quid is needed to be your minimum income to be entitled to Universal Credit. There are other situations like you've got to have savings below £16,000. Now, there was no minimum income requirement, and that was due to be phased out on the 12th of November. The government have now relented and said, actually, that minimum floor limit is now being removed. So it was due to be phased out on the 12th of November. That is now removed. So there is no minimal income limit. You can base it on actual earnings. The procedure, the application process is online. You get the eligibility from the day that you claim, by the way. So if you're in doubt, my personal view after this broadcast, if you haven't done it already, go onto hmrc.gov, search on Mr. Google for Universal Credit and get that claim sorted out. The worst thing that will happen, and there's a benefits calculator on the website, is that you won't get anything. But if in doubt, I always suggest put in a claim. Also, Universal Credit, under the coronavirus rules here, has an extra element going towards housing costs. And it also has a supplement of £1,000 on top of the Universal Credit normally. As far as I'm aware, that hasn't changed. So if you haven't claimed already, please check it out and do that. You need that level. You need that to support yourself. Now, bounce back loan. That was due to come to an end at the end of this month. The government have moved it now to the end of January 21. Now, what's the bounce back loan? My personal view, as most of these things are, apart from the government rules, is the bounce back loan says if your business has been established before March 20, have a look at your turnover and you can borrow from a minimum of £2,000 up to £50,000, i.e. 25% of your company's turnover, your business's turnover. It's available for sole traders. It's available for limited companies. And the view that I take, because we don't actually know what shape business is going to be over the next few weeks and few months, because I'm a fan of cash flow, because you may decide to pivot, you may decide to grow, you may decide to go into a different marketplace, you may decide to try something new, you may decide to upskill, you may decide to develop skills, lots of decisions there. You may need cash to develop that business offer. The bounce back loan for me is one of the best loan schemes that have been made available. There are up to 11 banks that offer that. If your own bank doesn't offer it, which is unusual if it's a main high street bank, then effectively check it out on the British Bank website. What they say is two things. First of all, the scheme has been extended up to the end of January 21. My view has been make the application, get the cash, stick it in your account and have that as a pot, just in case you need to tap into it for investment, just in case you need to tap into it for business reasons. You can't use it, by the way, to go on a cruise or go on a holiday. That's naughty. That's not what it's there for. It's there to support your business. You may want to look at it to perhaps restructure if you've got very heavy business loans. If you're already on what's called the business support loan under coronavirus, you can apply for the bounce back loan. You can talk to your lender and you can go onto the bounce back loan. Two of the other reasons why I love the bounce back loan is one, there's nothing to worry about for the first 12 months. Secondly, if you decide you don't need the cash, pay it back to the lender. There's no penalty charges. The interest rate is 2.5% per annum, which is ridiculously low, and it's payable back over 6 years. Now, it's still a debt, but if you look at the cost of debt, that is perfect, and that is absolutely, for me, a good thing to do. It's a savings pot. I'll share this with you, everybody. On a personal point of view, yes, business, I'm not saying business has been a walk in the park. I've been doing this for 25 plus years here. I'm, fingers crossed, we'll get through this with everybody else. But I've borrowed under the bounce back loan because I don't actually know with 100% certainty what's going on. In terms of businesses changed, I've got a training business that's suffered. So nobody's immune from this completely, but I would certainly recommend look at the bounce back loan. If you've borrowed less than the money that you're allowed to, by the way, you can go back and you can top the loan up accordingly. But get the application in as soon as you can, and you'll need that because for me it's always about cash pot. I'm just going to share a couple of comments here from people before we sort of start to wrap up. Joe, as always, you know, Joe's my business partner on something we hold called the Business Growth Club. I know this broadcast is not about the Business Growth Club, but Joe is a superb person to work with. We've got a Business Growth Club coming up soon. I just thought I'd put a plug in there. Yeah, absolutely true, Joe. It's probably going to be my mastermind subject one day on furlough, job support scheme, coronavirus. There are other things that go on in the business world, by the way, but I think this one is very present, very relevant. And Carol, very talented artist. The art sector is suffering, as lots of different sectors are, but obviously that is one that's felt the impact. If performing is your thing, you know, doing art, which is a very good social and economic impact for us in the UK, you know, it is uncertain times. And Carol, it's the least I can do. And so I hope you're doing well. So that's universal credit, no minimum income floor. Please check it out. Bounce back loan, it's there. Again, check it out. One thing to point out, by the way, the form is quite weird in the sense that it will ask you about, is your business in financial distress? Now, the interpretation of that is effectively, if you're in liquidation or that's the end of the road, then obviously your business will be in financial distress. So in most cases, unless you're in insolvency, unless you're going into liquidation, you will be eligible for the bounce back loan. Now, what do you do next? For me, it's always about being calm. Try it the best you can to remain calm. However you get that calm restored here, it's quite natural to feel angry. It's quite natural to feel frustrated. It's quite natural to be peeved with the circumstances. We can't change what's going on around us, okay? We may object to it. We can't change it, but we can change how we react to it. Any decisions that you make, whether your business is going to continue, how it's going to continue. And I've got some superb, innovative clients. I've got some superb, innovative friends in business, okay? And they're looking to do things differently. So it's really easy when you're in the thick of it to think that's it and to really get overwhelmed by it and to feel drowning under it and to think there's no actual way forward. But that's far from that. There's a lot of things you can do. Get a plan. You know, figure out what you're going to do, figure out what you want to do, figure out how you're going to get there. But critically, you've got to get a cash flow together, guys. If you haven't got a cash flow for at least the next 6 months, you're missing a big trick, because I promise you, here's what I think about cash flows. Imagine going to a doctor with a condition that you're not quite sure what you've got, and the doctor diagnoses that. With that certainty, when they either confirm your worst fears or they say it's all okay, you can then react once you've got the diagnosis. Once the doctor says, this is what's going on, these are the symptoms, this is how my interpretation, this is my diagnosis, you can then figure out a treatment. It's the same for your cash flow. Once you know what's going on in the cash flow story in the future, you can then figure out what the treatment is for your business going forward. I am doing a free cash flow webinar. I think I was going to do it next week. So please check out the, drop a comment if you're interested in joining. If you check out the link on my, I think on my Twitter brackets Instagram feed, maybe the Facebook, I've published it elsewhere. There's a link, it's free. I'm going to share a cash flow forecast template with you. I'm going to talk you through what you need to do. And I would encourage you guys to obviously do that and sign up. Apart from that, I'm going to bring things to a close. I hope you've got some value out of what we said tonight. Stay sanguine, stay positive, and stay calm. We're there for you. If I hear any more updates, I'm probably going to come back on and bore you to death with them. But I just want to keep you guys in the loop, keep you informed, and remember, you aren't alone. There's a massive community of people out there who are in a similar position to you. So with that, I would say thank you for your company tonight. If you've got any comments, drop them in the box. Apart from that, good night from me, and let's play you out with a bit of nice upbeat